time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person on all items, except for the public hearings. Comments on public hearings items must be made when the item comes before the board, commission, or committee, and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. Non-action or discussion may be taken during, no action or discussion may be taken during public comments or non-agenda items. To address the board, commission, or committee, please complete the white or yellow card and present it to the staff. For our public comment, I do have one, Mr. Robert Bataille. I would like to assign Commissioner Vice Pies to record the time. So you have 5 minutes.
Push. Hello, my name is Robert Bataille. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Fun to be here. I brought this in. I'm not so much focusing on this monuments to the Civil War, but instead down here with these townhomes. I think you guys may have screwed up or just not quite followed along closely enough about this townhome thing. This is not, excuse me, Manor is a historic district. It runs from 290 basically to Blake Manor between the two creeks. Excuse me. This is really the best neighborhood in the whole city. This is kind of like Andy of Mayberry, but it's ethnically mixed. These are towns or houses that are nice. They're modest compared to Shadow Glen or something, but they're also spread out. These are also the old timers that have lived here for, 30 plus years. Their mortgages are almost paid off. So we don't want to kick them out and turn this into downtown 6th Street. Now there's a dynamic between Scott and planning and quality of life and the comprehensive plan. I think everything in the comprehensive plan that talks about, quote, downtown Manor, which is more accurately referred to as Old Manor, really needs to be thrown out. And I mean things like some of these dashboards where they have the little dots up here, They call this a high-density urban area, excuse me, high-density urban area. For single-family homes, they have 1 dot. That should be 5 dots. That's what we want here is single-family homes. And then down here in high-density mixed-use, blah, 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 it's 5 dots. That should be 0 dots. So we need to not let them run over us. And now look at this. This is our cemetery. Do you think these people anybody wants to have this mass of things? This is 2-story. Some are going to be 3-story. 20 feet from the cemetery? That's going to be like a wall. You're standing here, you got a wall there. The entire serenity of that western sky is gone. We don't want to have a funeral. People are up there, hey, bring some buffalo wings. They're having a new funeral over here. Come on, check this out. On the balconies. That's not history. So we really need to protect this history and stop the growth in this comprehensive plan. Okay, so let's all of us work hard on that. Just in brief on items, what is it, 6, 7, 8? I guess 6 is postponed. Monarch Ranch. It would seem intuitive that as the planners and the developers get closer to the end of the process, the maps would get more and more specific. With Monarch Ranch, it's gone just the opposite. Once upon a time, they published this map here. It had 4 types of land. There's no parkland here. Scott and I think, are in disagreement about a couple things. Park land, 2 words, is 4 things. Open space, floodplain, wildlife preserve, and then the 1 word, parkland. Parkland is where you put a basketball court, baseball diamonds, and all that stuff, active stuff. There's no parkland in here. Therefore, Monarch Ranch owes us $220,000, or we can take the land. Our codes say that we reserve the right to take the land, and we reserve the right to put it wherever we want. We need a park in that part of town. No one's going to ever give us a parkland again voluntarily because the economics, they make no sense. They can pay $2,200 or they can lose $2 million of profit. Therefore, we're not going to ever get any parkland anywhere. The other thing I think that we're confused about, some of us anyway, is what the word "or" means. We define a park, it says municipal parks are parkland, one word, or open space. They're not the same thing. These people at Monarch Ranch, they're claiming 20 acres of some new thing they fabricated called park acreage. There's no such thing that I find in there. I wish the attorneys were here and you could ask them specifically these 3 questions I'm posing here. Okay, now briefly on to Shadow Glen. They're getting a sweetheart deal on these in-loop park fees. Currently, we're charging $550. I think we should charge $1,200 per house. How long are they going to get this $250 per house rate instead of the current one? The difference between that, for this I believe is what, 350 houses, 45, something like that. The difference is like over $100,000. So why do they keep getting the sweetheart rate?
Time's up.
For all of them? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We also do have another public hearing for item number 2. I'll deal with that call. Okay. Is there a motion to close the public comments?
You don't need a,
No, okay. So moving on to public hearing. For public hearing, agenda item number 1, conduct a public hearing regarding the submission of a rezoning application for one lot on 22.78 acres, more or less, out of the AC Caldwell Survey 52, Abstract 154, and being located at 14807 East US 290, Manor, Texas, from agriculture to multifamily 25 MF2.
sure. So the applicant has requested postponement to the April 12th meeting. They're going to provide more information. They're working on, I believe, secondary access with the adjacent property owner. So they had asked for this to be reconsidered tonight with that additional information, but they're still working on it. So they're seeking postponement to April 12th. So if you're so inclined, you can make a motion to postpone this to April 12th, but keep the public hearing open until that time, and you would close it on the 12th.
Is there a motion?
I'll move that we postpone item number 1 till the next agenda meeting. And keep the case open.
I'll second.
It has been properly moved to postpone agenda item number 1 to our next meeting by Commissioner Meyer and second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 2, conduct a public hearing on a subdivision preliminary plot for Shadow Glen subdivision, 361 lots on 103.72 acres, more or less, and being located near the intersection of Greg Manor Road and Rector Loop, Manor, Texas. We do have one applicant that would like to speak. Diane. Yes, we do have to. I'm sorry, and can you pronounce your last name and state your name when you come to the front? I apologize for not pronouncing it. So just for the record, you will have 2 minutes.
I'm Diane Mullenberg. I have submitted written comments also, but briefly, my main concern is about the traffic on this. To exit this new subdivision, you have to enter onto Rector Loop, which exits then to Greg Manor. And when you come from Manor on Greg Manor, it's kind of like a blind hill. You go over the hill, and almost immediately Rector Loop is there. And if you have 361 cars coming out that, probably double. I'm really worried about that. There needs to be a traffic light there. The road also is in terrible condition. I know that's in Travis County, but there was no information on traffic surveys or the improvements to the road. I'd also like to point out that there is another subdivision that is coming also at the corner of Fox's Grove and Greg Manor, which is just a quarter mile up the road, and that will also add additional traffic. So the bottom line, I'm just concerned for health and safety of the residents that'll be coming, and any information y'all can provide or help improve that intersection and the road would be greatly appreciated. Any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
And we also have Mr. Bataille to speak on public hearing number 2. And just a reminder, he will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Just don't bring the hook out, okay? Yeah, my name's Robert Bataille, thank you. This is Shadow Glen, of course. In many ways, I think we shouldn't even talk to these people until they catch up on the trails they promised from Phase 1, Phase 28E, all these other phases. We have 1 mile of trail there. We should have 2 or 3 miles of it by now, I think. There's no mention in here about trails anywhere that I see. And also, let's talk briefly about the parks. The way I read this, as I mentioned, they have a sweetheart rate 200 and 250 instead of 550. But also what we need is parks over there. We're not going to have any parks. They should have, I think it's 5.5 acres of park there. And it should be on the road, and they should just belly up to the bar and give us the land and put a bunch of amenities in there and spend a few dollars. We will never know who the owners of this are. They're registered as an LLC in New Jersey, or Delaware, excuse me. I think they should be here talking to us. What is this deal where we have to sit here and try to fumble and juggle our balls and, excuse me, try to figure out what they're coming from or where they're coming from? Why can't they be here on a virtual call? You know, to me, they should just be postponed. If they don't respect us enough to show up when we're doing this major thing for a huge, huge, huge chunk, you know, this is almost like another little city there. So I think we need the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, is there any discussions around agenda item number 2 or background information?
Sure. So this item, it has been approved by our engineers. So when you get to the action item, it is able to be approved. As was mentioned, they are county roads. Shadow Glen is in our ETJ. Rector Loop Fox Grove is in the county. Their TIA for Phase 3, it was approved. I mean, those types of things aren't generally in our backup, but it was there. It's reviewed by the county. The county leads those types of improvements. I've spoken with the resident, and so I'll get you that TIA and those mitigations and some contacts with the county to help you out on maybe when those mitigations will occur and what they're looking at doing. But for our purposes, you know, it's met the requirements to be able to be approved. Shadow Glen, they're building out in accordance with their plans that they've had for 20 years. So this is Phase 3, sections 1 and 2 of Phase 3. So they're finally getting over there. It's not included in this. When they get to phases 3 through 6, that includes the boulevard connecting Phase 2 over Wilbarger Creek to Phase 3, where it connects to Foxgrove, a little north of Rector. And so that's kind of a new east-west through there. But yeah, that's part of the later phases. And then the trails, the only trail that was included in Phase 2 was the one that was constructed. All the remaining trails are part of Phase 3. So when they do this section here, it will include additional trails. And then as they do phases 3 through 6, any of those sections that are on the floodplain, the 200 acres the city owns, there are trail sections there. There's actually a trail plan that the city council approved, a trail phasing plan. And it says what portions of trail are connected to what sections of the subdivision. So when they file their construction plans, those include the trail So we ensure that the trails are built when and how they're required. Yes, if you have any questions, I can answer those.
Are there any proposed improvements as far as Greg Manor goes? Or is there a timeline for converting it to future Howard Lane?
There isn't. We've been working with the county on elevating that need for that improvement. We have a seat, our former Mayor Wallace is on the committee that's working on the county's next roadway bond projects. And so we actually have meetings monthly now with the county to address traffic issues specifically for county roads. Because of that committee and how they're working on their bond package for it. So one of the items that was mentioned was extending Howard to Greg, in addition to Tower Road and Boat Arc and Old 20 and all the concerns that we have. Whether that makes it through committee and ultimately to a bond package is still unknown. That committee only just formed, but we are talking with the county about it and trying to get them to do some stuff out here. Yes.
Are those meetings recorded, like available to the public?
They are, as far as I know, they're public meetings. I'm not sure when they meet. I can look into that for you. They did ask, the staff level did say that it helps that residents in the community also voice concerns to the committee. Because the committee, they'll get a big list of roads and it helps them to prioritize, if they're hearing a lot about specific roads.
Does that go through former Mayor Wallace, or what's the best way?
Yes, you can provide things to him. The way that the staff at the county was talking about it, and they haven't set it up yet, I think there's actually a website that you can provide feedback on that goes to the whole committee. But if you have the contacts for former Mayor Wallace, you can also just directly contact him too.
Thank you. That's great.
Has there been any input from the applicant on this other than the application or discussions with them?
No, we just work with them through, meeting our code requirements. So Kimley Horn is the applicant, and so they handle all of it. SG Land Holdings, they're the owner, but we don't work with them. We work with Kimley to just satisfy our code requirements, and then this is also reviewed by the county, so there's certain county requirements that also need to be met, but it's met our requirements.
And that means that, we don't have discretionary decision-making on this item because we're compelled to approve it.
Correct, yes. Any subdivision plat or plan that's approved by our engineers is non-discretionary.
Any debate? If not, I will request a motion.
I'll move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Meyer and second by Commissioner Pies. Move to closing the public hearing for agenda item number 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 3, conduct a public hearing on a subdivision preliminary plat for the Monarch Ranch subdivision, 400 lots on 123.5 acres, more or less, and being located near the intersection of Gregg Lane and FM 973, Manor, Texas. We actually have our applicant here if he wishes to speak, or are there any questions? And then we also have one public comment by Mr. Robert Bataille. So just let me ask the board, would you like to hear from the applicant?
I would.
Can we have the applicant from Jameson Civil Engineering? If you would, please state your name and give us some just background. Is that what you'd like to hear?
Excuse me, Steve Jameson, Jameson Civil Engineering. This one, on our preliminary plan, been up before, we were here in November for this one. We had a little revision to it back then, but all the comments are cleared. And it's been approved by the engineers. Is it specific questions?
Yeah, I know that the trail space was a question last time, like how that was going to work in the parks, and you had to, I think you guys moved some of the
That
parkland.
That was not our project, I don't believe. I think that was the one right before us last time.
Okay. Um,
I remember then they were having to bring in one and lose a lot to bring it across the top.
Right.
Yeah, that was a different project. They're all the same, aren't they?
I have a question. On the, I think that's Tina Harrow Way, there's a open space amenities block there, and there's a dotted line that is basically along Tina Harrow Way there. What is that designation? What is that delineating?
I believe that's the drainage easement. We have a drainage easement along there, so we're carved out a piece.
How
So
much
we're-
of that is for the amenities?
It is,
If I may, I think that's the amenity center.
yeah, that's the many size. I thought you
Yeah.
meant what's the dotted line.
Well, I was.
Okay. Yeah, that's where the amenity center is going. And it was, hang on a second.
Yeah, I think the PUD included 2 acres worth for the amenity center.
I think it was somewhere around 2 acres. I don't have the PUD in front of me. Sorry, I don't have that information handy. But it was somewhere around 2 acres, I believe.
will the trails extend out to Monarch Ranch? Walking trails that are kind of close to that?
Yeah, so there's a 10-foot concrete trail or 8-foot concrete trail that goes in the back that extends south, so it'll connect through the Okra track, which they filed a PUD recently, which then connects to Shadow Glen, the trail that's existing there right now, and then ultimately the whole trail system. And then it connects north across Greg Lane to the New Haven development, which is the other one you were just talking about. Which they're trying to finalize their stuff through council. They're working on some other stuff, not PUD related. But yeah, that includes the extension of the trail even further north.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Jameson.
Thank you.
Next, we will have our public comment, public hearing for agenda item number 3 by Mr. Robert Bataille. Just as a reminder, you have 2 minutes, and Commissioner Pies will start you on the 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name's Robert Bataille. Are you able to pull up this map that matches this, that has this? Okay. There's no parkland in here. Ms. Wallace asked specifically, and several of you have, what amenities are going in this little shrimpy loop that goes around the water ditch? That's not parkland, that's open space. They get 0 credit for that. Maybe a hearty handshake or something. But they can't put anything that's an actual amenity in there. We've asked them, like, on 3 meetings, what are you going to put in there? They won't tell us. They're trying to rip us off for $220,000 or 6 acres. We really want the parkland there. When they want to pay us, we don't want that. We want the land by the street. That's a great park to tie into New Haven, right there on the street, looking beautiful and gorgeous. We reserve the right to request that park, and they have to give it to us. We reserve the right to put that park wherever we want to. We got to start grabbing these parks. When are we going to start doing that? We've got to start, or all this land is going to be gone. We're going to be one giant subdivision. And when you put a bunch of rats in a cage like that, they all go crazy. That's why we got to put things in our parks. We got to capture this park space. Okay. Also, the 10-acre commercial stuff, that has to have a plaza. This development, it's like a $25 million development. They can dang well put a $200,000 plaza in there for us. That plaza should be pretty close to, right on 973. Across from that is where we need our new downtown. We're going to have a lot of great developments going there between not Shadow Glen, but Good Luck Grill and 290. That's where our new downtown should be, in my opinion. And these people, again, where are they? This gentleman, he doesn't know what the heck he's talking about except for the engineering part of it. He doesn't know what they're going to put in there. He has no idea. With all due respect, it'd be nice to have the actual people
Time's
here.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bataille. And just to note that there are also public comments from the public hearing that Mr. Bataille has submitted by email, and you should have a copy. Any other discussion?
I move that we close the public hearing for agenda item number 3.
I second it.
It has been properly moved to close the public hearing for agenda item number 3 by Commissioner Leonard and second by Commissioner Pies. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to our consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the Planning and Zoning Commission and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by the chairperson or commission member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Agenda item number 4, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve the minutes of February 8th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. And that is outside the package for the commissioners.
I appreciate the detail on this, especially number 6, which was, there was like a lot of back and forth about that. And I read through this. This captures really well everything that was discussed. So thank you.
I agree with Commissioner Julie. There's just one thing. Can we fix my last name, please?
Where do we need to make the correction?
Pretty much everywhere my last name is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 4 with the exception of correcting Commissioner Pye's name wherever it is shown.
I second it.
There's a motion to accept the minutes with corrections noted for agenda item number 4 by Commissioner Meyer and second by Commissioner Pies. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Regular agenda. Agenda item number 5. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on a rezoning application for one lot on 22.78 acres, more or less, out of the AC Caldwell Survey 52, Abstract 154, and being located at 14807 East US 290, Manor, Texas, from agriculture to multifamily 25.
So this one, the public hearing was postponed to April 12th, and so this action item would also be postponed to April 12th.
I'll move that we postpone item number 5, but keep it open till April 12th, Commission? Thank you.
I'll second.
It has been properly moved to postpone agenda number 5 by Commissioner Meyer and second by Commissioner Leonard until our next regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Can they bring a better map to this one? Okay. It's a little fuzzy.
I can certainly try. It's a blown up image of what's on the screen right now, so it's sort of like you lose the qualities, sort of, and do that.
Agenda item number 6, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a subdivision preliminary plat for Shadow Glen subdivision, 361 lots on 103.72 acres, more or less, and being located near the intersection of Greg Manor Road and Rector Loop, Manor, Texas.
Sure. So, as mentioned, this one was approved by our engineers. We're also recommending approval. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan for Shadow Glen, the development agreement. They have their approved TIA through the city and the county for their traffic mitigations.
Will there be a light?
I'm not sure. The county being the jurisdiction having authority really over these, because it's all county roads that these improvements would be on, they'll determine what mitigations actually get constructed. So the way these always work, they'll have a dozen mitigations that come out of their development, but then they're only responsible by law for their pro rata share. So it might be like 5% of a turn lane. So like your turn lane's $100,000. It's like, oh, you only have to pay 5%. So it's like, what's that, $5,000 or whatever that they would contribute. But then you do that for all the dozen projects, and it's only their TI mitigation is like $1 million. But that $1 million doesn't fund all 12 projects. So the jurisdiction that has the most improvements, so in this case, the county, they'll just look at it and say, okay, the most impactful one that we can fund or two that we can fund. So they might say like, it's turn lanes at Foxgrove and Greg Manor and a traffic signal. And then the other 10 improvements don't get funded at that time or through that development. But it actually allows things to get built, because the way it used to be is, cities and they would just bank the money until it got closer to 100%. And that almost never happened. And you end up with a lot of unbuilt mitigations. And so even though you're only getting 2 of 10 things constructed, you're actually getting something constructed. But again, it's with the county, and they'll lead that one.
Thank you.
Any other questions or debate?
I move to approve agenda item number 6.
I second it.
It has been properly moved to approve agenda item number 6 by Commissioner Leonard and second by Commissioner Pies. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 7, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a subdivision preliminary plot for the Monarch Ranch subdivision, 400 lots on 123.5 acres, more or less, and being located near the intersection of Gregg Lane and FM 973, Manor, Texas.
So this one also been approved by engineers. It's in compliance with their PUD in terms of the parkland and lot counts and commercial and roadway alignments, and also their concept plan. So we're recommending approval.
So just for clarification on the parkland, so they adopted as is, and so does that mean that there is no in lieu fees requested?
This one does not have in lieu fees. Through the PUD, the parkland kind of the areas that they're dedicating or providing, meet the code requirements, and then with the amenities that they're putting in, the trail, and there was a list in the PUD, and as Councilmember Wallace had talked about, actually, sorry, that was New Haven, but there's a list of amenities they're including, and so those actually exceed our parkland requirements, because within the ordinance for parkland, it's just land. It doesn't really include improvements, and so through the PUDs, we ask for those types of improvements, so that's where the trail comes in, and how they're, pavilions and benches and all that. Again, there's the list in the PUD for what they would be constructing when they get to that phase. It's phase 3. It has most of the parkland in it, with the trail and all that. But yeah, this one does not have fees.
And did the city consider public comments regarding our parkland in order to make that decision between just having the natural land versus having the improvements?
It went through the PUD process was public comments, and it went through preliminary PUD and final PUD through you all with public hearings and city council with public hearings before approval.
Yeah. My question was the decision to adopt it was made off, instead of requesting for the in lieu fees, or adopting just the parkland itself, was that taken into consideration on that decision?
The parkland that they were providing that exceeds what's in our code. And so that was one of the bases for the approval, the recommendations of approval, and the approval from you all and the city council.
Thank you.
Also, are these amenities private for the subdivision only?
If they have an amenity center, which is optional, like I talked about, there's like 2 acres that could be set aside for an amenity center, that would be private. But the trail, pavilions, all that area is public.
Continue, Scott.
If they have an amenity center, that would be private, but there's trails and like pavilion and benches within the back and then around in the center area. Those are public. And at this one, yeah, sorry.
Okay, will they have they'll have commercial in the front?
That's not part of this preliminary plat, because they're letting the platting for the commercial be with that property owner. It's actually separate property owners from the residential and the commercial. As time goes by, you'll probably see plats for that. But yes, there's commercial on the front. Mhm.
Is it already zoned for that?
It is, yes, through the PUD. It has C2, but they pulled out some of the uses that they didn't think was what they wanted at the entrance of their subdivision. I think it was like financial alternative services, there's like payday lenders and bail bonds, and I think they might have taken out gas stations and self-storage units and stuff like that.
Do they plan on doing any road improvements?
This one, yeah, so their TIA is about $1 million, 1.1 million worth of mitigations. And so that's one that the city actually, we're the main jurisdiction on that one. And so they're dedicating the right of way on their portion for Greg Lane. And then with New Haven, their TIA mitigation is actually about equivalent, it's about a little over $1 million. So we'll likely be doing phasing agreements with them. And so those mitigation fees would be paid once they reach a certain threshold of development. And then we're probably, and this is all preliminary because we still have to work it out, like their TIAs have been approved for this. And it has that list of mitigations, one of which is widen Greg Lane. A lot of the other mitigations, not a lot, but the ones on TxDOT, TxDOT's got the turn lanes, got the traffic signal. So there's really not a lot that can be built out there without actually like building out 973, which is necessary, but beyond the scope of this project. But what the city we're going to be looking at is using the TI mitigation funding probably from New Haven, which is also on Greg Lane, to build Greg Lane into a 4-lane section.
Great.
It just may not happen immediately because like there's a
Yeah,
phasing
yeah,
agreement.
yeah, of course, of course.
Just
No,
put
but
it out
still,
there.
like that's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Cool.
Scott, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask these questions, but, so when we talk about parkland and amenities, I know I'm new to this game, but, when you're saying just, it's a trail and just park benches, is that it? Is there like a playground or anything?
This one would have a playground, yeah. So they usually, the PUD would have, I think it was like a 5 to 10-year-old. They had age ranges for their play equipment.
But they will own and maintain that. We will not.
Correct, yes. So through license agreements, they'll maintain all the facilities, the HOA.
I have a little bit of a not just a question, but a request on staff recommendations. Would it be possible to add a little blurb? Doesn't need to be a lot, but on why the staff recommends it?
Yeah, I could add more. I mean, the main reason is, once the engineers approve it, since it's non-discretionary, you're obligated to approve. So.
I think it would be helpful if we knew the rationale behind the recommendation.
Sure.
Maybe you could definitely for zoning requests.
Yeah,
Sure.
Mhm.
Any other questions or debate? Hearing none, I will request a motion.
I move to approve agenda item number 7.
I second it.
It has been properly moved to approve agenda item number 7 by Commissioner Leonard and then second by Commissioner Pies. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 8, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a final plot for the Monarch Ranch subdivision Phase 1, 141 lots on 44.680 acres, more or less, and being located near Greg Lane in FM 973, Manor, Texas.
Sure. So with the approval of the preliminary plat, this is their first phase for their final plat. It's also been approved by our engineers. That's just the front third of the development, so it's 141 of those 400 single-family lots. So we're also recommending approval for this one.
This is the same property, correct?
Correct,
It's
yes.
just a portion of it going to final.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 8.
I'll second it.
It has been properly moved to approve agenda item number 8 by Commissioner Meyer and second by Commissioner Pies. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 9. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on a final plot for Shadow View Commercial Subdivision, Section 3, 3 lots on 16.725 acres more or less, and being located near Greg Manor Road and Hill Lane, Manor, Texas.
Sure. So this plat, it's also been approved by our engineers. This is the new section of Hill Lane, the extension there by Casa Garcia between Lexington and Greg Manor. It also, of course, includes 3 new commercial lots, and the realignment of Manor Downs.
Is there a plan yet for what's going to go there?
Nothing's been filed, no.
This is on the Casa Garcia's side, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, it's the new section of Hill between St. Mary Magdalene and Casa Garcia.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the final plat for item number 9.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved to approve agenda item number 9 by Commissioner Meyer and second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 10, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a final plot for the Palomino subdivision, 116 residential lots on 42.93 acres, more or less, and being located near FM 973 and Johnson Road, Manor, Texas.
Sure. So this plat also approved by engineers. It's the subdivision that's across FM 973 from the senior high school by Stonewater there. It is a D.R. Horton Community Continental Homes of Texas. That's D.R. Horton. The property is zoned 2-family, so it's duplexes that they'll be constructing there. It also includes 2 commercial lots. But yes, if you have questions on this one, it includes the extension, realignment, I suppose, of Johnson, which was part of our thoroughfare plan. So it's named Lusitano on the plat because Johnson does go around it, but it kind of takes out that bend if you're coming in or off. And it lines up with the main entrance for the senior high school, and they're adding a stoplight there.
Is this the same parkland detention configuration that we saw last time?
It is, yes.
But it's changed a few times before that, right?
There was a change a while back because like waters of the U.S., like a federal designation, so they had to kind of move some of the lots around.
Was the road intersection, that was the major change? Because I think it was a little from this viewpoint northern. Or was this the same? I think we just had like a drawing, like not this actual.
I mean, it's some of the lots on the south part of it that got modified, the roads. There was a road that used to connect, I think they turned into a cul-de-sac or vice versa, because of those areas that they couldn't build on.
Are the commercial parts, are they already zoned and starting to build there?
They're not starting to build, but they are zoned to C2, medium commercial.
Do we know if there's going to be a light at Johnson? and
There
Penn?
is, they're putting it in now.
Okay, awesome.
That's the entrance to the high school across the street.
Yes. Mhm.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve item number 10.
I'll second it.
It has been properly moved to approve agenda item number 10 by Commissioner Meyer and second by Commissioner Pies. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 11, consideration, discussion, and possible action on setback waivers for lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, Block 2, Town of Manor, locally known as 301, 303, 305, 307 West Lane Avenue, to reduce the front setback to 20 feet, rear back to 10, and side back to 5 feet.
Sure. So it's been a while since we did a setback waiver, but they are pretty common. These lots, they're zoned single family. And so this applicant, they purchased these 4 lots. They are behind Mr. Jim's over there, kind of by Riata Ford. There is a house on 309 West Lane, like a little house, but 301, 303, 305, 307, they're vacant lots. They're standard lots for the city, which is 50 by 115, which is 5,250 square feet. Math. But that's a standard lot size here in town, but with our existing development standards, like an SF1 lot, if you're platting that new, that's a 70-foot wide lot, and 8,500 square feet is the minimum. And so it's written into our code that these setback waivers can be requested to accommodate for these smaller lots here in town, so they can still fit the required or the minimum house size, which is 1,500 square feet, the 2-car enclosed garage, the 100 square foot covered or uncovered patio, and then not exceed the 40% lot coverage for the main building. And so these setback waivers are pretty much every house that gets built here in the older part of town do a setback waiver. But if you have questions on it, I'll be happy to answer them.
So are any of these on that would apply to the street side yard?
We cannot modify street side setback. That's always 15. So at the corner of, I think it's Lane and Bastrop, that lot, which would be 301, their street side setback is 15, and that can't be changed.
Is this on the side of Lane?
I'm sorry, can I
Oh,
just follow a question until we move on to this item? So for 301, the side yard view, so did they submit to change that to 5 feet?
Yes, so the street side, so they grabbed, I do apologize, there's an older version of our setback waiver they have. The setback is 7.5 feet is a side yard, so they're reducing it to 5. The front is 25, and they reduce it to 20, and the back is 25, and they reduce it to 10.
So on the application, is this not correct with the ordinance of the 15 feet street side yard?
That's still the same.
Mhm.
Yeah, that, they wrote on their street yard 15, but that's what it is by code and it can't be changed.
All right. No other questions for that topic for myself, but Julie?
Yes, thank you. Is this the lane, part of lane that feeds into the back of Riata?
It is, yes.
And are they gonna make one house out of these 4 lots?
They would do 4 houses, one house per lot.
Are they gonna be improving lane?
There's just no requirement that they do. Standard driveway connections. But on single-family residential, there's not any generally traffic or roadway improvements that are necessitated from that.
Except a lot of people cut through the back of Riata Ford. You know, like I would say it's more than maybe a normal road because there is a shortcut in there that sometimes people use, not myself. I mean, I would never do that, but
Yeah, I mean, that driveway connection into Riata exists. I don't know necessarily it should be there, but it exists. And that's, future residents will just, they live on a road where that connection exists. I mean, that's what they're going to be buying into.
Remind me again, which setback cannot be changed from 15 feet, you said?
That's the street side, so I have a corner lot. The longer side is the street side, and that always has to be 15 feet, so you can modify the other side. So if you have, 2 interior sides, that can go to 5, or if you have a corner lot, you can reduce the non-street side to 5, and then the front and back can change, but that street side setback is always 15.
And Scott, I have a question, and I'm probably wrong on this, but I thought Samaripa Street was over there by the Manor Excel Academy.
That's the address for the applicant. So she lives there on San Maripa, but the request is for lots 1, block 2. They're technically unaddressed, but they will have those addresses of 301, 303, 305, 307. But right now they're really lot and block on West Lane there. And this applicant, she's actually built, 3, 4 houses now here in the older part of town. But she has her process down on what she needs to do to, build a new house here in town.
where are some of the other houses that she has so that we can kind of get a frame of reference of what the building quality is like?
Her house on San Maripa. She built 2 there. She's building the 2 on Jesse right now. Yeah, they meet all our code requirements in terms of size, masonry, aesthetics, all that.
So that's what she's gonna put over there also, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, she hasn't, as far as I know, submitted anything, but the intent is just to build 4 single-family homes.
Are they for sale or are they rent?
I believe she sells them, but I don't know for sure, but I think she does. We don't regulate that, though. We don't regulate how ownership happens.
These are already zoned, right? So this is just
Yes, these are already zoned for single family. This just makes developing them more feasible and practical.
are these discretionary?
They are.
So that means that the engineer has approved?
Engineers, they don't review this one. This is just something that's permitted by our code. It says that if you have a lot that's 5,750 square feet, which is at 50 by 115, you can make this request to modify your setbacks. And historically, they've always been approved. I mean, why it was added into the code was because our new development standards, exceed what's possible here in town in terms of lot sizes. But like I said, with SF1, a new lot is 8,500 square feet. It's like 70 by 125. And, some of the development standards in terms of setbacks, like 75 or 7.5 feet on each side, 25 in the front and back, is written for those lots that are 70 by 125. But because there's still SF1 here in town and the lots are 50 by 115, being able to reduce your side setbacks, if the interior one's like 5 and 5, it gets you, 10 more square feet of buildable area. And the same with the front and the back, going from 50 feet worth of setback to only 30 feet. So
As far as the comprehensive plan goes, I know that it's downtown outskirts and such. Does this use fit with the comprehensive plan, or as we grow that downtown area, do you think that will spread out and maybe we should save it for more commercial area?
This area is shown as single family. The area that the comp plan had is that like downtown mixed use didn't really exceed what's already there. It did go up like a block or so. But where this is being so far out from, the intersection of Lexington and Parsons, it still maintained the single family portion of it. Now, of course, the comp plan may speak to single family in, different terms than what our code has, but right now we just go with what our code is. So yeah, it's not wildly inconsistent. This area isn't planned for, high density, residential or commercial, anything like that.
Any other questions?
I move to approve agenda item number 11.
I'll second it.
It has been properly moved to approve agenda item number 11 by Commissioner Leonard, second by Commissioner Pies. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. We have now came to the end of our regular agenda, and we'll attain a motion for adjournment at 7:46.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 7:46.
I second.
It has been properly moved to adjourn our meeting at 7:46 by Commissioner Pies and second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.